Go. Hello and welcome everybody to today's roundtable talk. And today on building the future of Web3 on Polkadot, we're going to be focusing on specific parachains and how the Polkadot SDK enables developers to create innovative Web3 technologies. So really excited about this discussion. We have some amazing leaders in the Polkadot ecosystem with us today. So maybe let's start off with a quick introduction from the speakers and then maybe also mention your project and why you chose to deploy on Polkadot. And Francisco, since you're the last one to join, let's start with you. So please introduce yourself. Let us know what is your project and why you chose to deploy on Polkadot.
Sorry, are we live right now? Or?
Yes. Yeah, we're live.
Okay, cool. So yeah, my name is Francisco. I'm the co-founder of Tansy. Tansy is essentially an app chain infrastructure protocol. So we're making it a lot easier for developers to launch their own chains, right? I think in the last couple of years, we've seen a growing demand for app chains in general, but the developer experience has been quite lacking, right? It's very difficult for a developer to bootstrap its own chain. There's a lot of infrastructural responsibilities that are required, that are inherent with launching chains. So that's kind of what we're doing, right? You can kind of think of Tansy as a layer one to help deploy other layer ones. And we're doing that by providing permissionless block production as a service, along with all these tools that you need to run a chain, right? Like block explorers, indexers, oracles, all these different things. And we decided to start building on Polkadot because I think Polkadot's architecture is capable of offering very distinct properties for layer ones, right? This concept of shared security is very important. So abstracting away the necessity for developers to have to bootstrap their own validator set to track staked value. The relay chain of Polkadot currently provides billions of dollars in staked value, which developers can tap into seamlessly through Tansy. Decentralization is another big thing. I mean, we've seen the popularity of L2s on Ethereum, but it's about trade-offs, right? Like if developers care about decentralization, then L2s are probably not a great fit because there's just centralized sequencers, right? Finality is another big one, right? Like how quickly can you reach consensus for your chain? Substrate and Polkadot are quite powerful in that. Composability, how do you communicate with between chains? So there's all these kind of capabilities that Polkadot's architecture offers to builders to build L1s, and those are very difficult to replicate, right? It's not very easy to build these things in kind of retrospectively. So yeah, that's kind of why we started to build with Polkadot, and we're kind of Tansy's trying to deliver on the developer experience, right? Helping developers tap into these properties in the easiest way possible, because at the end of the day, you can have the greatest technology, but if it's very difficult to use, nobody's going to care, right? So that's kind of where we're coming from with Tansy.
Absolutely, that's very, very valuable. Yeah, developers experience is key. We want to make sure the technology is being used. So thank you, Francisco, for that. And then I would like to move on to Tony. Tony, can you introduce yourself, your project, and why did you decide to deploy on Polkadot?
Sure. Hello, my name is Tony Mateos. I'm one of the founders of the Laos Network, a parachain that will start producing blocks in a week time from now. My background is in physics and mathematics, and my PhD is in string theory and those weird things. My background then moved to technology. I started moving to cinema sound. Actually, I have to say it, we got an Oscar for science and technological achievements, our team, just a few months ago for creating Dolby Atmos. If you go to the movies and ever hear Dolby Atmos, it was something that we created. We started here in Barcelona. And then I moved to blockchain, falling in love completely with everything that you guys have fallen in love probably as well in 2016. And then I realized I wanted to spend the rest of my life, I think, in this field, and started building different things. So we ended up with Laos Network after, and I think Francisco named it really well, after having built our own layer 2, even before layer 2s were called layer 2s, on Ethereum and Polygon. It's been live for more than 3 years. So, suffered all these trade-offs that he was mentioning, and we didn't like them. I mean, when you really get your hands on it, at some point you realize that you're not being truthful, or whatever you want to call it, to the spirit of decentralization and the whole thing. So we ended up understanding that we had to build something more secure with the same properties or similar properties than our layer 2. That's why we ended up with a layer 1. We chose Polkadot for exactly the same reasons that Francisco just named. Decentralization, true decentralization, finality, all the tool set is there, and the relay chain is there for us to provide security to every transaction that goes through the network. And we ended up building a parachain that differentiates from other parachains, as is the spirit of Polkadot, in that we try to connect Polkadot's core time, which, as you know, is massive. It's an hugely empty compared to what it could be providing. We're trying to use that core time to offload transactions from outside Polkadot, indeed, not from other parachains, but from Ethereum, from Polygon, from all the layer 2s on top of them, and eventually even from Bitcoin, as we'll do at the end of this year. We do that without bridges. So, of course, if you have a bridge, then you can basically do everything you can do in one chain in another one. Laos is specialized in doing that without bridges and just a subset of transactions that really fit this pattern. You cannot do that, of course, with everything that you want to do on Ethereum, but about 20% of everything you can do on Ethereum, Polygon, and all those EVM chains, you can offload to Polkadot, while everything that you're doing when you offload remains compatible with, it remains on Ethereum and Polygon and all that stuff. So we can delve more into that later. But our spirit is to use Polkadot to help other ecosystems outside Polkadot scale better.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tony. I'm really excited to learn more about your work. And yeah, you've done a great deal of progress within such a short amount of time. So congratulations. And also on the Oscar. That's really great to have such a versatile background. Now I want to move to Dudley. Can you just introduce yourself and also talk about your reasons for deploying Polkadot in your project?
Yeah, howdy. Thanks for having me, Alexandra. Yeah, my name's Dudley. I've been working on the Kill protocol for at least 5 years now. I'm now the team lead of the development team, so I'm happy to be here today to give you a bit more understanding about what we do. Yeah, I guess from our perspective, Kill itself is definitely one of the big identity projects in the Polkadot ecosystem, and we try to strive for creating or using the standards, which is not defined in Polkadot, but outside of it with the World Wide Web Consortium. We're using decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials. We feel like the reason why we came into Polkadot is our journey started like 6 years ago, and we were one of the first teams to build on Substrate way before like there was really readily available documentations. And yeah, we saw great potential. We definitely saw the vision that was proposed for definitely interoperability and other services, trying to get things like computation or other NFTs or transactions onto our chain would only slow it down. And we saw that that was not needed, right? We needed identity solutions and only identity solutions. But we wanted to have other features and other feature sets available to us. And Polkadot suggested or made this vision come true by allowing, for example, using Fowler's computation on Kilt if necessary, and identity on other chains as well. So for us, that was kind of the proposal and the dream that came from it. So yeah, that's one of the major things that we saw. Again, we looked at Ethereum and other places, but the proposal for low costs and having a buildable system for enterprises and governmental level businesses really drew us in there, because we wanted the identity solution that was for, again, companies and big enterprises. So yeah, I think a lot of those visions drew us towards it, and the technology stack itself was being built, seemed pretty amazing. So yeah, there was a lot of different ways, and again, only can echo some of the facts that Tony and Francesco brought up as well.
Amazing, thank you. Well, it's fantastic to have an OG with us, somebody who's been building way before. It was actually nice to hear also some insights and also some of the more detailed questions that we'll delve into in a minute. Joshua, I'll move to you. You know the drill. But I'd like you to introduce your friend as well, who's very actively supporting you there too.
Oh yeah. My friend's Moxie. That's she's my puppy. But if you look in my Twitter profile, you can see she's one of the dogs in my profile picture. But just NFT wise.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm Joshua Waller. I'm the director of tech evangelism over at Follow Network. So most of my responsibilities involve leading the DevRel operations. That includes like building docs, tutorials, templates, leading workshops, talks at events. But I also help out build out some integrations with other protocols. So I do some like development research on these protocols and such that I can kind of like Dudley said, like work with Kilt or work with whatever with other blockchains or any other Web3 service in this case. And I also have done some development. So like for some dApps, like our Agent Wars frame that we deployed on Farcaster, I built that along with building some of the runtime palettes for Follow World back in the past. But to kind of go into Follow Network in general, Follow is a DeepIn protocol with over 36,000 tested TEE nodes, TEE being Trusted Execution Environment. We leverage this architecture to create a secure off-chain computation protocol. So this means that we can now be able to like serve as a AI coprocessor for blockchains. So any kind of Web3 service or any other smart contract platform, we feel that we are able to like enhance their capabilities by providing this off-chain computation, since our programs are running in a secure off-chain worker executing within our TEEs. So why did we choose Polkadot? So Substrate is honestly like the best SDK for building customized blockchains. So just like I described earlier, it allows us to create these unique use cases for something like secure off-chain computation, which is really, really hard to do when it comes to like Ethereum or other blockchains as well. So we found that Polkadot was like the best place to build this. And then also like previously mentioned, we don't have to worry about running our own L1 and having to attract users and liquidity to be able to like bootstrap our protocol. So using having Polkadot to be able to process our blocks on the relay chain is and in a secure way is something that was very attractive for us. So we are like one of the original parachains that started during the beginning of the auctions back in, what was it, like 2021 at the end of the year. So yeah, we're like continue to build products and allow for us to get like user feedback to see how we can enhance the developer experience and really break down that barrier that we see today in like Web3, where it's it's a little hard to build something that's competitive to these Web2 apps. So that's my little tidbit.
No, fantastic. Yeah, 2021 seems like ages ago, right? Already, even though it's been 3 years. You've mentioned some of the blockers already for the Web3 developers. Is there anything else that you find is another blocker for those who want to get into the Web3 today?
Yeah. I mean, to me, one blocker today would be like a bearish market, bearish in a sense. We have some up and downs. Also, there's a lot of attention, like a lot of attention-driven types of things for devs. So like if they see like, oh, this is where all the liquidity is here, they're gonna go build there. So it's really hard. It's really hard to get developers to want to build somewhere where it could be a little bit siloed. So having more avenues to access liquidity would be really, really huge for unblocking these developers in Web3 today. Another thing that I've put down is just like getting kind of closer to these Web2 user experiences. So really breaking down where are the blockers, where like when developers kind of drop off and kind of give up. I would say that's something that has to be solved, and something we're really focused on kind of delivering for these developers. And then one one last thing, I won't speak too long on it, but like giving developers a very quick way to profit. So like their time to profit whenever they're building their dApps. Like are they building a dApp and then say they deploy it, but it's really hard to attract users and even generate profits? That might be very time consuming for developers, and it could put a bad taste in their mouth if they're not successful. So I find these as like some of the Web3 blockers that I've analyzed over the last couple of years or so.
Wow, these are really good points. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't get the rewards quickly, you lose interest. I mean, obviously. Dudley, do you have anything else to add in terms of blockers that you might have seen?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that, again, Joshua is right on all of those points, but one of the others is the stigma around Web3. It's unfortunately got a bit of a bad reputation in the last X amount of years. And Web2 developers seem to avoid touching anything with that type of stigma at the moment, purely for the fact that they seem it to be somewhere they will find bad actors or unsavory actors that promise to do something, or they try to scam people and so forth. And that's definitely a place where I hear a lot of these Web2 developers talk about, and gives them gives us a bad reputation, especially for individuals in here who do build and do produce projects that are meaningful, right? And it's hard, especially when you try to approach them and they seem to make out that it doesn't matter. They're still going to find this. So I think rebranding, or maybe looking at ourselves again, and trying to be a little bit more mature. I don't know, that could be a possibility, but yeah, I think just the general stigma is pretty hard to shake off at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The bad press is really difficult to wash away, right? We need lots of positive messages throughout. Yeah, it's a fantastic one. Thank you, Dudley. Tony, can I go to you? Is there anything else that you'd like to add on this?
Yeah, sure. I have a huge list of blockers for Web3 to actually get into the mainstream, but maybe just mentioning one or two that are related to legislation not really catching up with the amount of things that can be done. And just to provide two examples, when we had this layer 2, still we have it, we built a payment gateway, a really simple payment gateway where you can basically pay in euros or dollars for the exchange of an asset that is on chain. It's really simple. It's solved everywhere in the Web2 world. In the Web3 world, basically, the third-party provider, payments provider, that the licensed one that was working with us, would drop like in a period of 8 to 12 months, because they would get a requirement by the legislative body in their country saying, "Hey, actually, are you doing NFTs in the background?" Like, it's not NFTs; it's just exchange of euros from user A to user B, and there's another third party that actually transfers the asset. Okay, you should stop doing that. And that happened 3 times in a period of 3 years. It's super painful. They see the business, they want to work on that, but it's basically impossible. So that's just concerning legislation on payments, which is massive if you want to get to the Web2 world, the people that don't want to really own a significant amount of crypto yet, or they just want to play a video game, perhaps, right? And then also, as a developer, if you want to build use cases that are really compelling to you, like for me, like one of the use cases that I would love to be able to use, not necessarily to build, but to use, is being able to share the future royalties of a musician's song. Okay, I follow my up-and-coming musicians. I believe in them. I think they're going to be great. And like me, I think zillions of people around the world. If I could, just pay a little bit up front, so that actually I'm helping the guy, or actually bootstrapping, because I think that at the end of the day, I may even cash back. Maybe not, but I may even cash back at some point in my life. That, if you want to implement that use case, probably you need to rule half of the world out, because it's not legal to do that or not even clear whether it's legal or not in most geographies in the world, right? So you can really not, even if the technology was there already for supporting that use case and the wallets were not an issue and things like this, it's basically such a pain to build a use case that most people end up abandoning. So like this, I think many of us can speak of different use cases that are just due to legislation such a pain to build.
Yeah, the gray areas do pose a problem and can be a great blocker for a lot of people. Yeah, thank you for that. It's a really fantastic points. Francisco, I'm gonna get to you with this question as well, but actually you've already addressed some of the issues that you are so with Tansy. So maybe let's delve a little bit deeper into your project, if you don't mind. So, what, in your opinion, are the benefits of deploying an app chain, for example, as opposed to spinning up a parachain or an application, a smart contract platform? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, at the end of the day, deploying an app chain through Tansy, the benefits is that you don't have to deal with kind of all the infrastructural responsibilities, right? Like before we started Tansy, if you look at kind of the landscape 2 years ago, if you wanted to launch your own chain, you have to bootstrap your own validator set. You have to find out how to incentivize those validators. You have to evaluate their performance. There's a back and forth. For simplicity purposes, a lot of developers just decide to launch with a couple of validators, but that then you kind of trade decentralization and security, right? Then once you launch the chain, you realize, okay, I have consensus, I have block production, I have data availability, all these kind of primitives for the protocol. And then you realize, okay, now I need a block explorer, right? Otherwise, I'm completely blind as to what's happening. I need an indexer in order to query data on the chain. I need an oracle if I'm building a lending and borrowing protocol. I need RPC endpoints. I need bridges. So you start getting all these kind of complementary things that are inherent with running the chain, right? You can't get away from those things. So ultimately that ends up resulting in a time to market of months, right? And so with Tansy, you kind of get all those things out of the box. So you don't have to deal with all those infrastructural stuff, and you can just focus all the time, energy, and resources of your team to developing the actual application that you want to build, right? I think we saw a similar transition in Web2 back in the day. You had to run your own servers. You had to, it was just a lot more infrastructure intensive to even launch a website, right? And then things like the cloud came along. So I think we're starting to see the same transition in Web3, and we're trying to provide kind of this cloud-like service, leveraging the Polkadot kind of architecture without compromising on decentralization and security. So that's kind of comparing deploying a fully fledged L1 versus just deploying through Tansy. There's trade-offs, obviously. And then the smart contracts approach is just different, right? Like with smart contracts, I don't really look at it in a binary way. Smart contracts are capable of servicing use cases that app chains cannot. Liquidity is a great example of that, right? If you're going to build a chain, bootstrapping liquidity from zero is like an incredibly difficult thing to do. So it just makes a lot more sense to deploy smart contracts on something like Ethereum or Moonbeam, where there's an existing DeFi ecosystem. And we're even starting to see use cases where it's a hybrid model, right? So you tap into an existing EVM kind of shared environment to tap into the liquidity, but then if your application has kind of workloads that are demanding on block space, you can offload that into a Tansy app chain or container chain. So we're starting to see these kind of hybrid models. App chains are great if you need dedicated block space, if you need sovereignty, if you need customization. Those are things that are just not possible on shared EVM environments. And so yeah, it's about trade-offs and what you're deciding to do. And I think we tend to focus. It is true that like developer experience, like that will ultimately bring in a lot more developers. We're nowhere near what like Web2 is at. But I would say we also need to find like use cases, right? And like product market fit. There's a lot of like oversupply of infrastructure in Web3 right now, but there's not nearly as many successful like use case stories, right? I think recently it's like pump.fun on Solana. They're getting a ton of traction, right? So I think we need to see more of these applications, and it's kind of a little bit of a chicken and egg problem where you need to make the developer experience so easy that you kind of broaden that top of the funnel for like as many developers to come in, and it's just a numbers game, right? Like finding high quality teams that are going to be successful. If there's 100, maybe 1 or 2 will be successful. The problem is that the developer experience right now is so bad that the number of teams that are willing to go through that process is just very low. So you're reducing that probability of finding good teams, right? So the goal with improving the developer experience is just increasing the probability of finding like these product market fit use cases.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes you just want to build something exciting, but you have to also do the research, right, and making sure that it fits what is the market requirements. Just want to make sure that those of you who are listening, actually, you can make comments. And if you have questions for our speakers, don't hesitate to put them in the comments, and we'll try to answer them at the end of this panel. I'm sure you have a lot of burning questions that you want to dig deeper into. But thank you so much, Francisco, for this really amazing answer. And there are a lot of interesting points that you've mentioned. I want to move on to Joshua and actually talk about how Phala AI agents helps developers and what are the most exciting use cases you've seen so far. You've touched upon it a bit, but maybe we can just dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll kind of like break down the question a little bit first. So with the AI agents piece, so Phala has created this AI agent contract. And this contract is going to be able to, one, have two components. One component being the agent script. So this agent script is all the logic for your agent. And this is what's going to be executing in the trusted execution environment. So we have like a long living virtual machine running inside TE that has embedded a JS engine in there. So that you can execute like asynchronous programs in this case, along with some like default security and privacy guarantees with the execution within the TE. So this is like the first component. And then the second component would be the on-chain component of whichever chain you want to use, or smart contract chain in this case as well, to be able to like regulate this script in a sense. So being able to regulate these agents and be able to monetize them is something that we find very important. And this is kind of like the basis of our product called Agent Wars that we've just launched. So in Agent Wars, just a simple breakdown of that is we've made it possible for you to go into Agent Wars and claim your AI clone. So this AI clone is based on your Twitter. It takes all of the data from your Twitter and some of your tweets, and then just kind of gives you like a little agent that you can own, and then have your community buy keys to be able to interact with the agent. And the keys are like experimental, like token economics type of piece here, so that it's determined by a bonding curve for these key prices. So people can start to buy these keys up and get like a piece of ownership of these agents, and they can buy mini keys if they would like as well. And then in the future, as we like continue to get user feedback and start to upgrade these contracts that are running on chain, we're able to then offer like some more decentralized aspects to it. So like being able to govern these agents and govern the system prompts that are configuring these agents to be voted on by the community. So people that own keys of these agents. And this is kind of like where we see being able to take these agents to the next level, because in the traditional Web2 stack, it's really hard to get all of the rewards or the monetization aspects in this case for the developers today, because a lot of it, they might deploy an agent, but maybe they're not seeing as much traffic, or they get a lot of traffic and they don't see as much profit. So there's we're just experimenting in this piece so that we can offer some standard templates for developers to really start building and customizing based on how they want to build. So that's like the first interesting use case. We actually just participated at the hackathon with Polkadot at Consensus, and we had a couple interesting submissions. One being like a marketplace for athletes called Babes. What they did was use the AI agent contract to have the users enter a prompt whenever they select a chain that they want to generate. So they have a pendant that gets generated into a 3D model. And then from there, that 3D model is then sent over to Robonomics to be 3D printed. And then all that like supply chain piece is automated on chain, and such that you could then have your chains being shipped to your users that are purchasing these chains. So I thought that was like a really cool like introductory use case to like AI agent contracts as a piece of your dApps. Another one was Foresta. One of the things that they used was the Apollon's like Schrodinger's NFT. They kind of forked that and made a customization for like encrypted file execution with like access control rights. So a user could grant could grant other users permissions to execute this encrypted file. So I thought that was like a really interesting use case as well. But yeah, that's kind of like where we're at right now with the AI agents. And then one of the main things of like kind of reducing that time to market or development experience in a sense is all of this agent script part is written in TypeScript. So being able to write in TypeScript, and then also without the agent DAO part, you can deploy this directly without even having a wallet. So you could you could think of it as kind of like a fancy little HTTP server at your disposal running inside a TEE. But that's all I have for this one right here.
Wow, that's amazing. Such cool use cases. And definitely, yeah, a lot of people can relate to that, even if they're not, they're new to the Web3 world. I think it's definitely easy for a lot of them to get into that, especially with all the hype about the AI. I think that's a good one, to get people interested. Fantastic. No, thank you so much for sharing all of this. And Dudley, I want to actually go to you and do you mind talking about how Kilt and utilizes the DID services? I think that's going to be a very interesting case to talk about. And anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I just wanted to say it's like a really cool use case as well, Joshua. So just wanted to give that like the robotics one as well. But yeah, for Kilt itself, yeah, we pretty much want to provide a standard digital identity. And this comes basically from what I mentioned earlier regarding using these specific standards from the World Wide Web Consortium, called decentralized identifiers, or DIDs for short, and in combination with verifiable credentials. So again, we expect like businesses and users to both need these, and in a way that this is the foundation of like the digital identity solution, right, we provide. We really want to give control back to the individual users and kind of allow them to make those decisions about who are they actively working with, or to authenticate or authorize them to have some form of access control to business services. So again, our solution wants to return the control to the users and offload the burden of protecting user data from businesses, right? So again, some of these businesses do not want to like control these projects, these users' data, and it's understandable. I mean, if we look at like anything for the GDPR, you have to be compliant and make sure that you're holding this data, and it's expensive. And again, there's some dangerous practices out there, and some people don't know how to manage the data. There's data leaks and so forth. So it's not just dangerous for the businesses, especially when it costs, but it's also dangerous for the users to have their exposing their data unwillingly or willingly to maybe unsavory actors that want to use their data. So for us, DIDs is a perfect solution for this, right? So an individual has a set of cryptographic material, keys in that case, and they can freely disclose their credentials or claims about oneself to businesses, as long as they're free to choose who to disclose to. We believe that's up to the user's choice, and actively they can opt in and opt out of solutions, especially with credentials. So we see businesses looking to go that way, not just businesses, but government bodies. They see the need for users to have their digital identity in their control. So again, we're seeing real world use cases coming up. People have been neglecting the digital world for some time regarding their identity, and it's time that we allow businesses ways to build services on top of it. So again, I know that Francesco mentioned some of these bottlenecks that individuals come in, and they're having issues with onboarding, and individuals have bad experiences. And if we're not capable, or we're not able to give them a better experience, that developer is going to not tell their colleagues or friends about the solution that they used, and it's not going to make them want to talk about it. I mean, again, some of these solutions that we've seen in the past in Web2 worlds, they're very convenient and very easy to use. And that brings the word of mouth to individuals and then allows them to build again and again on these same software and same frameworks and so forth. So we're hoping to provide that. We have a multitude of services. Again, I mostly work on dApp development and stuff like that. So I've built several dApps, again, continually proving and continually trying to make the onboarding step easier for people. And I think it's just inevitable that we'll work on this. And I think the DIDs and verifiable credentials will have its place in not just the Web3 world, but the Web2 world, and allow individuals to build products out of them, have access control, have memberships available to them to build, again, clubs like we used to back in 2006 when we first started playing video games, having your own clan or groups of people, and having that sort of grassroots feel, and giving those people that opportunity again with DIDs and verifiable credentials. So again, I see a lot of potential and I see a lot of things that we could do with it. We just got to make sure the experience is there for them and that they go and tell their friends or colleagues about the stuff that we're building. Yeah. So.
No, absolutely. Knowing about it is so important. But do you think also that being aware of the importance of your digital identity is also part of it? Do you think that some people don't pay too much attention to it and just throw the data around in the internet too easily?
Yeah, I feel like you're totally right there. People don't respect your digital identity or your data that we're consuming or giving away. I mean, there's $1 billion companies out there that monopolize on it, and obviously they're monopolizing on it for some reason. And I think individuals want more convenience, but if we can provide the same level of convenience or maybe slightly less while giving them control, I think that's the narrative as well. I mean, it's hard to explain to some of my family members what's the importance of data sharing or what information you share out there. I love to introduce them to podcasts regarding like Darknet Diaries, which explains some of the vulnerabilities that happen. And again, they listen to one or two podcasts and they start to realize the dangers that they put themselves in or their children in by sharing these types of data. I know that there's, again, legislation out there that's trying to work towards it, but it's at the same time kind of kneecapping some of these developments that we have, especially, yeah, again, it's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
People.
No, but it's a very important issue, and hopefully more people will realize that they should be more careful and that there are other sides to the internet as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Dudley, so much. Tony, let's maybe move to you. And I mean, all of our speakers have shared the use of the technology and what they've been building. But I think one of the interesting things about Lao is actually the use of the XCM, something very specific to Polkadot. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, Tony, and how the XCM, how Laos leverages the XCM capabilities to enable builders on Polkadot and across the Web3. That would be very interesting.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, on the one hand, we use it the standard way that looks standard to us, but I think for the rest of outside ecosystems, being able to transfer things to other layer ones in a fully secure and not mandated by intermediaries way is amazing. So we use that we will use that to provide liquidity to the token, allow it to be in exchange in different parachains, the standard thing. But besides that, we've leveraged, if you want, part of the technology and also the spirit of XCM, of being able to, from one parachain, from one chain, sovereign chain, being able to refer to things that live on another consensus system. All right, not necessarily inside Polkadot, but even outside. And this is one of the things that through universal location is part of XCM version 3. We've completely leveraged that and boosted on steroids and used it to be able to connect, as we were saying before, Ethereum and Polkadot, or Polygon and Polkadot through Laos. So the outcome of this is the following, right? So thinking about use cases again. So you are, and these are very real use cases, right? You have a video game that's free to play. Everybody downloads it. It's obviously free, and maybe you want your users to experience ownership from day one since they download it, right? So give them NFTs for free. Maybe it's a soccer manager game, so give them 18 NFTs just for downloading the game. You want to do something similar with real world assets. You want to tokenize all the card titles. I saw one of the comments there, or anything that's at a massive scale, right? Great. You want to do it in a place where liquidity sits, where all the eyes in the world are there, where buyers, purchases are potentially there, where all the ecosystem is already compatible there, right? Okay, you cannot do it on Ethereum. That's your number one place to go. You just can't, right? So you start looking at layer twos. That's a normal procedure as we've seen out there for years now. Most of them will end up in layer twos or layer threes that, as Francisco was saying, they are just centralized, put the name you want afterwards, sequencers. They have so many centralized components. Please, everybody that's looking at us, go to L2Beat, BEAT. I'll try to share the link later, .com/scaling/risks. And you'll see an analysis that's public for all layer twos and layer threes over Ethereum with all sorts of red flags, well known, about potential issues that they already have, right? But people still do that. And there's a massive amount of total value locked on those chains because they want to scale and have the feeling that they still somehow are on Ethereum or on those major ecosystems. So on the one hand, they pay the trade-off of security. On the second hand, all their users are not just going to be in a less secure place. They're also going to have a severe UX problem. They're going to use a bridge. So to be able to operate, they're going to have to bridge ETH. Okay, what's bridging? And we're talking about the mainstream. We all have the dream of reaching the mainstream. What's a bridge? What's wrapped something? So, and why do I even have to pay to start doing anything with all those? There's a severe UX issue as well when people go through these other solutions. So with Laos, and thanks to Polkadot, there's a number of things they can do while remaining on Ethereum or while remaining wherever they wanted to choose because they think that's where the ideal ecosystem is for them without departing from there, just offloading part of the costs of operating there. So say you want to mint all those assets. You want to mint 1 million NFTs right now on Ethereum. It's not just that you're going to pay hundreds of millions of dollars worth of ETH. You're just not going to be able to make it today. Probably you'll have to wait a couple of weeks for those transactions to be processed, right? So instead, you use Laos to offload all those costs. In the background, there's XCM, this extension of XCM that we talked about at the beginning. But for the end user, all those millions of NFTs go to recipients that see the NFTs on Ethereum. They trade them with ETH, they trade them on OpenSea or their favorite marketplace, and they do DeFi with all the DeFi ecosystem right there. And same for Ethereum, same for Poly, whatever the developer chose. The developer is the only one that knows that Laos and Polkadot exists. Their users don't necessarily. If they don't. And that's beauty because they can choose wherever they want to be because it benefits the application without having to bootstrap from zero, without having to go through bridges and L2s and all that thing, right? So we think that's solving a massive problem that's right there today, not the use case of the future. And maybe just finishing the intervention there, I've spoken a lot about EVMs, right? So Ethereum and all those. But the same will be applied to Bitcoin by the end of this year. So Laos will also be connected there. We have grants to help support this transition as well. And just to give a number, so in the last months, people have gone crazy minting on Bitcoin. I don't judge why, but clearly they see the value why. So they've spent $500 million on minting NFTs since NFTs became, through ordinals and inscriptions, a thing on Bitcoin. And again, I'm not judging it, but the problem is there, and they are paying $500 million just to be able to do that, right? So again, with Polkadot, they're going to be able to do that much more and at a fraction of the cost. So that's the kind of things that we're building and that we think it solves concrete issues that we have right now without getting into the details of why are all these things being used, which is an external layer.
Yeah. No, exciting. Well, we're looking forward to this next step. Tony's will be really great and very comprehensible user case for a lot of those who are also new to the Web3 world. I think really provides a lot of value. Thank you so much for that. So thank you all of you for sharing about your projects. I think these are incredible use cases, and we just need to make sure that more of the world knows about it outside the Polkadot ecosystem as well. But now we're coming close to our talk now, and what I want to talk about now is there are a lot of changes in Polkadot. Polkadot is always changing, always improving and evolving. And recently, there's been the introduction of the agile core time and elastic scaling, and synchronous backing is already here. So, how do you see these changes impacting your projects in the future? And now, in the case of asynchronous backing, for example, maybe I'll ask Francisco for that question first.
Yeah, I think these are pretty important upgrades for for Polkadot's protocol, right? I think, Polkadot 1.0, probably the biggest shortcoming or the biggest flaw of that V1 was the barriers of entry that it imposed on builders, right? I mean, if the first step that you need to take into an ecosystem is win an auction, and that auction you require to front like 6 figures, that is just going to drive away a lot of builders, right? Because there's no guarantees that at the end of the day your chain is going to be successful, right? It's kind of the equivalent of telling an entrepreneur who sells, I don't know, tables, you have to purchase $500,000 worth of tables in inventory without having made a single sale, right? So you're taking a huge risk in purchasing all this inventory, which is equivalent to block space, and then you launch and you don't even know if you're going to get product market fit, right? So already there, I think that was a flaw with the first version of Polkadot. So I'm pretty excited by kind of parathreads or on-demand chains and agile core time, because it effectively just reduces the barrier of entry significantly for the builders. So the developers that just want to get started in the ecosystem, they can go for the on-demand model, try to build something. If they get traction, then they can then upgrade into kind of a reserve model and purchase a bunch of block space. So that I think is really exciting. Tansy, I think, is very complementary to that model. In fact, it was originally conceived with this kind of parathread or on-demand chain model. And we plan to offer both things, right? Like a spot versus reserve model. So, and at the end of the day, you're still going to need to produce blocks, even if it's an on-demand model, right? So you'll still have to bootstrap block production nodes. With Tansy, that makes it even more seamless, right? If you want to produce a block, you can use our protocol to do that. And then if you get traction, you can upgrade into a full parachain or even migrate away, right? And then, with agile core time, it's also exciting because it adds like elastic scaling and all these things, but I think that can come later, right? Like once you have traction, being able to add more cores to that chain is important. But I think it's more essential to reduce the barriers of entry into the ecosystem by removing this auction mechanism so that we can get more people in. And yeah, Tansy, I think, was originally built with that model in mind, right? So I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, these are fantastic changes for a lot of people. So we really want to see where it takes Polkadot 2.0 to the next levels. Josh, how does it affect your Fala network? What are the implications for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, Francesco did a really good job answering this. We're kind of like we have the similar mindset. For us, like for us, we think of it as like the point of core time is just to lower down the barrier to entry for Polkadot. So onboarding new devs, onboarding new developers and applications to be able to be built on top of Polkadot and kind of leverage all the different technology. And then also thinking of that, it creates this like network effect, also like getting exposure to the different projects that are already deployed on top of Polkadot. So for us, we find it as like more developers coming in, they'll get exposure to some of these great projects that are already here talking with us and others in the ecosystem, and including us. And we're thinking that will help increase developer adoption and start to see a lot more use cases. And also like with async backing, it's gonna make the latency lower. So better performance is also a plus as well. So I find it as a net positive for us and for everyone here as well.
Absolutely. Well, we're moving very fast now, and we only have 10 minutes left before we have to conclude our talk. So I suggest we move on to the closing remarks, and maybe anything you want to say you are excited about that's coming up for the rest of 2024. The year is nearly up. We're halfway through. And also where the listeners can find you. So Dudley, do you mind sharing a few last remarks to our listeners that you want to leave them with? And also where those who are interested to learn more can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thank you for having me here and the rest of the panel as well. Unfortunately, I won't be coming to Polkadot Decoded this year. It's aligned with my time off, but I was super excited, especially with all of the new things coming out and the whole topic of Jam. So I think if you do have the opportunity and you do have the funds to go see, hear what's actually happening, I would love to see what's going to be done at Decoded. I can imagine there will be lots of hot topics about Jam. I think the rest of the year is going to be very exciting. I think for those following Jam and all of the potential growth paths for the ecosystem, I think this is going to be a very exciting Polkadot Decoded, something that I think is going to be definitely a big change, a great change, and I think one that for me personally would love to see and be part of as well. So I would just say that if you can find us at Kilt Protocol. Unfortunately, I don't have any Twitter. I'm not on any social medias. And so for me, yeah, you can find us on our Discord. Again, we have a website, kilt.io. You can have a look there. My Telegram handle, and you find everything in the bio. But yeah, I just like to say thanks everyone, and excited about some of the upcoming stuff as well. Elastic scaling and all this, but yeah, I think Polkadot Decoded is going to be very exciting. So yeah.
Thank you, Dudley. Yes, absolutely. There's going to be lots happening there, and for those who can't make it in person, there's always the virtual live streams, and also you can connect with a lot of teams virtually as well. So I'm sure maybe some of you also have virtual booths available, so those people can connect with you as well. Tony, any last remarks from you? And also, are you going to be at Decoded and your team?
Yes, we are excited because it's going to coincide with TGE for our network. So we're super happy there. And 3 things that we look forward in the next months. I'll be super quick. One, hey, the public pre-sale of our tokens will be live also on the 11th. So you can register now. Go to laos.network laosnetwork.io if you want to contribute to the project. 2, we're super excited about the Bitcoin possibility that we talked about. So any Bitcoin developer in the talk, reach out to us because we have generous grants to make that happen. And the 3rd one, yes, and again, a call to all developers on Polkadot. I think we are not considering enough the possibilities of the bridge that's being set, the snow bridge that is being set between Polkadot and Ethereum. We think about it a lot in terms of, oh yeah, we can bring ETH back, not back, but to Polkadot for the first time in a secure way, and get all liquidity here. But hey, there's much more we can do. We have the root of all the state on Ethereum, and hence all the state of all the layer 2s and layer 3s on Ethereum, and vice versa, at least when the bridge works both sides. They have everything that we are doing available on Ethereum as well, including Kilt's identity, for example. People registering in Kilt or executing things there can prove in just one single transaction without actually having to move from Kilt to Ethereum that they actually have passed whatever KYC in Kilt. Things like this are enabling use cases that maybe we are not thinking hard enough that are going to be enabled over the next few months.
Yeah, fantastic points. I mean, there's so much happening that maybe there's not enough time to think about all those things, but you're completely right. It's important that we take all of this into consideration, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more developers who'll be keen to work on this stuff. Thank you so much for this, Tony. Super exciting. So, Francisco, any closing remarks from you, and where can the listeners find you and connect with you?
Yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for having me. It's always a pleasure to participate in these events. I think, yeah, the things that I'm looking forward to in 2024 is obviously the launch of Tansy. So we're going to be launching the protocol this year. So that's exciting. And if anybody's curious to follow us, you can, I think Twitter's a good place. So at Tansy Network, and you can kind of stay up to date with everything that's happening. But yeah, thanks again for having me today. It was a pleasure.
Fantastic. Are you going to give a talk on Decoded as well?
I was going to, but unfortunately had to cancel the trip. But there's going to be many people from our team there. So if anybody's curious, they can catch up. I think we're going to have a booth as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much for this, Francisco. Joshua, any closing remarks and how can people connect with you?
Yeah. So some of the closing remarks, like over the last half of the year, we're going to have a few hackathons that we're running. So I'm really excited about that, seeing like what developers built, but also getting that developer feedback and kind of like reiterating and seeing where we can improve. So I'm really excited about that. And along with like building more in what I would say is like intelligent interfaces to Web3 services. So being able to leverage these AI agent contracts to build something that makes understanding Web3 a lot easier and easier to interact with and build applications with. So these are some of the things I'm most excited about. Also be at Decoded and in Brussels. I'll be there a long time. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, it's at #warlock for pretty much everything. And then also make sure to follow the latest news at Follow Network and join our Discord if you would like as well. And yeah, I'm happy to talk with anybody and see people at the event as well. So it's very nice to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much to everybody for making such insightful and really valuable contributions. I'm sure all the listeners learned so much and being now very inspired. And those developers out there who are just jumping and starting thinking about how they can contribute to all these user cases. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and also inspiring all of us um, going forward. And we look forward to what's gonna be the developments for all of you for the end of the year. And maybe we'll reconvene back in a few months and see what has happened. So we'd be really glad to see you back again. Thank you so very much. And any of the listeners, if you have any more questions, please drop in the comments and we'll try to answer them in writing. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye.